Good morning and welcome to Center of Being TV. Welcome in. How are you, my fellow beings? Welcome to Center Your Being TV, where today we'll delve into the vulnerability vibe. So, what exactly is the vulnerability vibe? Well, this is a little corner, as I've shared before, that I've set up on my YouTube page to discuss issues of vulnerability. Today, very specifically, I'd like to discuss the vulnerability of exposure. So, I have been on this excited journey to cultivate and bring to you this product called Center of Being DOJO. It is definitely a labor of love. It is a very intimate entity to me, as are my own children. I have been conceiving the idea of Center of Being for over a decade. I have been working my business in a variety of different ways. I have practiced as a massage therapist, and some of what I do in Center of Being is centered around body work. So the name of my organization is Center of Being Body Work and Wellness Dojo, LLC. And so a key component of the work has been body work. I am a licensed massage therapist. I gained my licensure in 2000 and either the end of 2011 or the beginning of 2012. And it has been just some of the greatest work that I've ever done in my life is working with the body. To be able to manipulate soft tissue and be able to participate in an individual's agreement with their body to come to respite and peace and homeostasis. And so I really love being a massage therapist and have worked as a massage therapist for many years. And it was just one aspect of my business concept, my business idea, right? But you got to build these things one thing at a time, right? And so massage therapy came first, but there was always this desire within me and always this natural calling around life coaching, around organizational development. And so the life coaching pieces, I've always participated and always acted as a life coach, always acted as someone who was a good, stable space to be a listening ear, and above and beyond that, to step out of the space of listening and to really interact with an individual to help them figure out what it is that they were attempting to accomplish, right? I think one of the tenets of friendship is that your friend should listen to you. And I felt that one of the callings of my life was to empower other people to seek and gain the change that they were seeking in their life. I, for many years, as a part of my business practice, provided personal training and really worked hard to make certain that the people around me were meeting their health and wellness goals. And so, like I said, this business is a culmination. It's a comprehensive wellness business. It's a culmination of my passions and my personal desires, as well as my professional education. And so, where does the vulnerability come in? The vulnerability comes in when you begin to live your dream, right? And so one of the things that I noticed that I was struggling with was launching Center of Being as this comprehensive wellness entity. I was really worried about authenticity, right? I had not gone to medical school. I had dropped out of college. So let's reverse that. I dropped out of college and so therefore did not go to medical school. I have had a long-standing career in the arena of direct social services, community organizing, electoral organizing. I have worked for many years within the banking retail sector and within the retail sector itself. So I am a culmination of many professions. But there was always just one passion, and this passion was around health and wellness. And so I was really challenged initially when I began to really get serious about developing this comprehensive business. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to be authentic. I don't want to be one of these life coaches who has a bad attitude, but I'm teaching folks how to have a good attitude. I don't want to be one of these life coaches who's running around here with a life in shambles. And for many years, it felt like my life was definitely in shambles. I was absolutely horrified at the idea of presenting myself as a health and wellness coach when I was in the most severe stage of being unwell, right? And so it was a challenge for me to look past the spaces of perfection that I was seeking in myself and seeking in my mission and seeking in the rollout of my company. I had to stop looking for perfection. And as a self-proclaimed perfectionist, that was really hard for me to do. And so for many years, many people did not know that I had this whole business with a business plan. I had paid some fees here and there, and never until 2020 legitimated my business as an LLC. Prior to, I had worked as a sole proprietor under my own name. But what I wanted to do was bigger than that, and my vision for Center of Being is bigger than that. But the biggest thing for me was having to expose myself, having to share my idea, having to put myself out there for rejection, out there for criticism, out there for review. And I, for many years, just couldn't get there, right? And so now we're here. And so the vulnerability that I'm experiencing is around this exposure, is around this concept that I have developed to bring Center of Being to you, right? So previous to the pandemic, I worked primarily as a massage therapist. And so a lot of my work was touch-based. As I've shared in my story, I began to have some of my own physical health challenges. In 2017, I experienced the most severe challenge. I received a blow to the rib cage that triggered several anomalies in my health, one of which was a mild angina, mild heart attack. I, of course, had the damage to my spleen from where the hit took place. The damage to the spleen seems like it kicked off a whole series of things in my body, and probably things that I had been dealing with for many years but was in denial of, was really not trying to allow myself to acknowledge, right? And so a previous video I was talking about the root chakra and the importance of the root chakra. We'll do some more work and more conversation about the root chakra, but the root chakra is that instinctual chakra, right? And in my previous video, I was talking about how I was ignoring my own root chakra giving me back information about my body. And so in 2017, it just culminated in a space where my body had had enough and my body began to deteriorate. And so even though I was employed in a local natural food store, working as a wellness agent and advocate, working specifically with herbs, I was experiencing my own traumatic dynamic journey in health. And so when my employment came to an end And this is in the middle of the pandemic, or in the beginning of the pandemic. It was in May of 2020 when I was released from my space of employment. And I was thinking, well, what am I going to do? It's the middle of a pandemic. People are not hiring. People are sending people home. What am I going to do? And I was like, Shara, you got a business. You have a whole business. Now, I knew I couldn't do massage therapy. My health was in decline, and I was really concerned about touching people when we didn't know anything about coronavirus and, how it was being transmitted, what the potential outcomes could be for someone such as myself, who was experiencing some major health challenges, mostly connected to my heart. And so I had to, delve in, and that's what I have shared on this channel before. I delve in, I go into the center of my being, I take a look at myself, and I pull up and unearth parts of myself that need to be rediscovered, that need some light shined on them, that need repair, that need acknowledgement, celebration, and recognition. So it's not just about the negative stuff. But anyway, I had to go in and I said, look, girl, you got all this talent. You've worked in these various careers. You're smart as a whip, and you have this concept. Go ahead on, and this is the moment to launch it. And so what I began to see was this critical need for business entities, companies, and individuals to shift. Like the globe had given us this opportunity to shift. It had given us an opportunity to pursue life on another level with a different social construct. We didn't have to labor needlessly in spaces of employment to earn our dollar. We learned that we could earn our dollar from home. So many people became remote workers. I worked remotely for the company I was working with for a little while. Many people started businesses. They had to. And businesses were forced to shift. You could not expect and could not demand of individuals that they stayed in environments where potentially their life could be in danger. You could not turn to a person, a business could not turn to a person and say, you have to come into this job and risk your life for reasons unknown at this time in order to maintain your paycheck. Hence the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, right? Because the globe, our government saw the need to support our economy. And so this shift began to happen, and people began to see that we could live a different type of life. We didn't have to be beholden and obligated to being away from our families and being away from the core areas of our life that needed our attention for 8 hours of a day while we went into a space to be of service to others. We had this shift, right? We learned that a lot of customer service work could be done from home. We learned that we could engage in healthy entertainment venues and activities outside. We had many restaurants begin to build outdoor seating. Here in Atlanta, our mayor lovingly allowed us to be able to get cocktails and bring them home so that we were not exposing ourselves to open air situations where we could potentially spread coronavirus, right? So all these things were taking place. We had all these opportunities for change, for growth, for restructuring, for really reestablishing the social construct that is the basis of our economic system, right? And so I wanted to help organizations figure out how to work with their employees, how to work with their human capital in a way that reflected compassion. I wanted to see more compassionate workplaces, and reflected the variety of opportunities available for commerce in the midst of the pandemic and beyond, right? And so Center of Being was born. And I began to work with organizations that were seeking organizational development assistance. I worked with a couple of startup nonprofit organizations, one young woman in particular who was not necessarily a startup nonprofit, but she was transitioning into more of a collective business model, where she wanted to collaborate. She wanted to build a collaborative platform with a variety of health and wellness entities. And so I worked with her. I worked with a law firm. I worked with a law firm that was seeking to firm up their human resource arena, that area of their work, and really needed some organizational development assistance in their human resource systems, as well as some of their other systems, filing systems, if not their management around meeting culture, their standard operating policies and procedures, making sure that those operating policies and procedures had systems connected to them, and that those systems had individuals that were accountable for making certain that those activities were properly engaged in, and that there was some oversight. And so I began to work with organizations in the summer of 2020, and have continued to work in the arena as a consultant. So that is a little bit about how Center of Being specifically came to be. I was really trying to respond to what I saw was a need in the marketplace. And the need in the marketplace was around helping businesses shift, helping individuals that own businesses to shift, so that personnel and human capital could experience a more abundant and more productive experience with their employer, and vice versa. And so this was the opportunity I saw, and I began to move within the space of that opportunity. And then the reality set in, and the reality was I'm sorry, I was looking, I've got a message and I realized I've got a phone call coming up, so I'm going to have to make this short. So the reality was I could not just survive from word of mouth, right? I was getting clients through recommendations, and people were definitely word of mouth promoting me. However, I was moving from a space of having a full-time job to being full-time self-employed. And that meant I had to put myself out there. That meant I had to develop the concept of the dojo beyond something that was existing in my heart, and really get my shit together. And that meant, starting my LLC, that meant, going through all the legal paperwork, etc. But then above and beyond that, it was setting up a website, really beginning to pay attention to my Facebook page, which I had had for years, but really never interacted with as it related to my business, beginning to have some engagement with my other social media platforms such as Instagram. So I've had an Instagram, I had a Facebook page, I had a YouTube channel, but I wasn't using any of them with any intelligence, and I certainly wasn't utilizing them to grow my business and to enhance my presence in the marketplace. And why? Because at the end of the day, I'm a little shy. And like I started out this conversation, I was afraid of coming across as not authentic, especially because most of 2020 and 2021, I was very, very sick. Very, very sick. I had not yet been diagnosed with lupus, but I was showing all the signs and didn't know what was going on with my own body, right? And so I had a challenge. It was like this conflict of faith. Here I am launching this health and wellness entity while feeling at my lowest. And I was like, how do I do this? How do I do this? I need to survive. I have to feed my children. I have to feed myself. But more importantly, I have this passion for this work, and I want to see myself thrive within this business that I've been holding in my heart for years. So I had to get over it. And day by day, a little at a time, I worked on a little bit of my business, and I worked on a lot of my health, right? And so here we are, August 2022, and I'm here before you doing one part of my business, which is having these dialogues on YouTube, having these conversations in the variety of playlists or topical areas that I have chosen to share information. And so the vulnerability vibe today is about the fact that we all have to expose ourselves in order to move forward. You cannot grow in a dark corner, right? You have got to allow yourself to experience some light, and that exposure to the light can be very very scary. It can be one of the most vulnerable times of a person's life. To put yourself out here in front of an audience of strangers, in front of an audience of friends. I had to muster a lot of courage, even though I've done a lot of public speaking. As a community organizer and electoral organizer, I've spoken to crowds, I've been on TV, but there was something about presenting my own business platform that, I don't know, I was just scared to death to fail. I guess at the end of the day, that's it in a nutshell. I was scared to death to fail. And so what I had to learn is little by little, I had to take off little bitty pieces, not even chunks, little pieces at a time to get to the point where I am today, where I've got this schedule of YouTube videos or YouTube concepts, where I have this developed website and this business that is beginning to thrive. And so that's what I wanted to come and share with you today in the vulnerability vibe, that pursuing one's best life means that you definitely have to get out of comfort zones. Living the life of your dreams means you have to share your dream with the world. Being healthy and vital means that we have to admit we all have challenges to our health and our vitality, right? And that's where you have the opportunity to gain maximum health, is by recognizing the fact that no one lives a perfect life. No one is existing with perfect health. No one has a perfect relationship. There's nobody out here who's the perfect mom. There's nobody out here who's running their business perfectly. We all just have to step out there, be willing to be vulnerable, be willing to expose ourselves, be willing to gain the feedback so that we can grow, we can thrive, right? You know, one of the things that, we know about nature is that you plant a seed in the ground, and the tree does grow, right? There's the alchemy. The tree, the seed is in the ground, the nutrients in the ground nurture the seed. The water from the sky nurtures the ground, which the nutrients nurture the seed, and eventually you have something that comes up from the earth, right? You have a sprout. and it comes up from the earth, and it is seeking the sunlight, and it is seeking all of the resources that it needs to thrive, right? But it had to come to the surface to gain more of those nutrients so that it could thrive. And that is the power of exposure. Yes, I feel vulnerable. I am not even certain, and it's so funny, I look at my YouTube channel, look at my videos, ain't nobody looking at my videos, and it's okay. Because this is just me breaking ground, seeking my light so I can thrive. And so that's what I share with you today in the vulnerability vibe. It is okay to not be perfect. It is okay that you are not living and doing and being everything that you 100% ideally would like to see yourself do, be, or live as. The important thing is that you put yourself out there to grow, that you put yourself out there to commingle and to experience some connectivity with other individuals and other beings on this planet. That's what's important. And it is absolutely okay to feel vulnerable. Absolutely okay to feel vulnerable. But what I hope many people experience after that initial moment of vulnerability is acceptance. Because as much as you fear exposing yourself to others, the reality is other folks are out there waiting for you to arrive. We all have a natural place at a table. But if we sit in a space and think that A, we are not worthy of being at the table, and above and beyond that, the nutrients offered there, then we'll never know abundance. And so it's important that we recognize these moments of vulnerability, that we meet them face on, and that we celebrate ourselves in the process of being vulnerable, because there's power in vulnerability. There's a lot of power in vulnerability. In fact, I think that vulnerability is the root of self-empowerment. You've got to be able to be real with yourself, and you've got to be able to be willing to seek the resources, the information, and the relationships that can help you grow. And that doesn't start unless you have that initial moment of vulnerability where you're able to say, there's a need. There's a need for me to be. There's a need for me to be greater. There's a need for me to be more. There's a need for me to be less, right? So I appreciate you for joining me today on the Vulnerability Vibe. Again, if you're seeking information about Center of Being Bodywork and Wellness Dojo, I encourage you to visit me online at the website www.centerofbeing.com. Again, that's www.centerofbeing.com. I appreciate you. I look forward to more conversations with you. And again, remember, honor your vulnerability. It is the sweetest vibe. Have a good day.